Welcome back to my channel. Today we're diving into a powerful and truly life-changing topic, love that lasts a lifetime. If you've ever found yourself wondering why relationships start off amazing but fade over time, or why some people seem to build love that gets stronger with every passing year, this video is for you. We're going deep into the real truths about lasting love, what it takes, what gets in the way, and how you can create something meaningful that actually stands the test of time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below, letting me know what topic you'd love to see me cover next. Whether it's dating, struggles, building confidence, or navigating breakups, I'm here to help you every step of the way. Let's get into it. One of the biggest myths we've been sold about love is that it begins when we meet the right person. That somehow the moment they walk into the room, everything clicks, all your insecurities vanish, and this magical other human completes you. Hollywood makes a killing off that story. But real life, it doesn't work that way. If you're looking for love that lasts a lifetime, the journey doesn't start with someone else walking. It starts with you standing tall on your own 2 feet. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were constantly walking on eggshells, constantly wondering where you stood, constantly adjusting yourself to be enough for the other person? Maybe you told yourself you were just being patient, understanding, loving. But deep down, you knew you were abandoning yourself in the process. That kind of love, if we can even call it love, never lasts. And more importantly, it chips away at your confidence every single day. Here's the truth. Self-respect isn't optional if you want something that endures. Because love that lasts a lifetime doesn't come from being endlessly agreeable, over-available, or trying to mold yourself into what you think someone else wants. It comes from knowing your value and refusing to shrink it to fit into someone else's idea of enough. People often ask me, what does confidence in love even look like? It's not about being loud or detached or playing games. It's about showing up as someone who doesn't need to chase love to feel worthy. It's about being able to say, I want you, but I don't need you to complete me. That's powerful. That's attractive. And most importantly, that's sustainable. You see, when you don't have a strong foundation of self-respect, you make the relationship your entire identity, your happiness, your self-esteem, your security. It all depends on what someone else does or doesn't do. And when things start to shake, you panic, you cling, you compromise. You lose your voice, thinking it's the price of keeping someone close. But lasting love can't breathe in that kind of fear-based environment. It needs space, honesty, and 2 whole people choosing each other, not one person holding the relationship together while losing themselves in the process. Let me give you a simple truth. Someone who genuinely cares about you will never want you to abandon your standards, your voice, or your boundaries, just to keep them around. And if they do, they're not your person, not for the long haul. Because here's what happens. When you lead with self-respect, you create a filter. You no longer entertain the people who treat you like an option. You stop tolerating hot and cold behavior. You don't find yourself wondering, why didn't they text back? Because you're busy asking, why would I want someone who disappears? When you respect yourself, you stop negotiating with red flags. You stop justifying crumbs of affection. You stop chasing the feeling of being chosen and instead choose yourself every single time. That kind of energy changes everything. It changes the way people respond to you. It changes who you attract. And most importantly, it changes how long love lasts because you're not building it on neediness or fear. You're building it on clarity and mutual value. Think about this. In the relationships that felt the most exhausting or uncertain, were you truly being yourself? Or were you constantly adjusting, monitoring, managing? Real love doesn't require that kind of performance. In fact, the love that lasts doesn't even want that version of you. It wants the version of you that speaks honestly, that says no without guilt, that's not afraid to walk away from anything less than respect. And if you're thinking, But what if I lose them if I show up that way? That's exactly the point. If being your full self drives someone away, then it's a gift to know that now, not 10 years from now, you're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to be loved deeply by the right person. And that only happens when you have the courage to be authentic, even when it's uncomfortable. The reason this is so important and why I'm starting with I is because every other piece of lasting love depends on it. You can't build healthy communication if you're afraid to speak your truth. You can't create deep connection if you're constantly hiding parts of yourself. And you certainly can't grow with someone if you're always stuck in the anxiety of whether or not you're enough. So let's stop waiting for someone else to come along and finally treat us the way we want to be treated. Let's start treating ourselves that way. Let's be the person who shows up with standards, who honors their time and energy, who isn't afraid to say, I'm looking for something real, and if that's not what you want, that's okay. I'm not here to convince you. When you move through the world like that, love doesn't feel like a desperate search. It feels like a powerful filter. And what stays what chooses you back, that's the kind of love that actually lasts. Because the person who's right for you won't be intimidated by your strength. They'll be drawn to it. We've all been there, that electric moment when you meet someone and instantly feel that spark. You lock eyes, there's chemistry, the conversation flows, and suddenly your brain is flooded with possibilities. It's exciting, thrilling, even, and there's nothing wrong with that initial rush. But if we're talking about love that lasts a lifetime, we need to get honest about something. Chemistry is not connection. And confusing the two is one of the fastest ways to end up in a relationship that feels intense but ultimately goes nowhere. You know that feeling when you meet someone who makes your heart race, but then a few weeks or maybe even days later, you're already questioning whether they actually see you, understand you, care about what matters to you. That's the danger of chemistry on its own. It's an amazing spark, but it fades fast if there's nothing real underneath. And the worst part is, we often hold on to that initial rush like it's proof that something must be meaningful. We tell ourselves, but we had such a strong connection. Noah had attraction. Big difference. True connection isn't about the butterflies. It's not about how quickly you click or how intense the physical pull is. It's about feeling safe to be fully seen. It's about knowing that when you speak, you're not just heard, you're understood. It's about being able to show up with your messy, complicated, real-life self and still be met with care and curiosity. That's what real connection looks like, and that's what lasts. The problem is, we've been conditioned to chase chemistry like it's the golden ticket to lasting love. We go on dates, and if we don't feel that spark within the first 10 minutes, we check out, or we meet someone who absolutely lights us up, and we ignore the fact that they're emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or not aligned with what we truly want. Why? Because it feels like love. But feeling something deeply doesn't automatically mean it's good for us. In fact, some of the most toxic relationships feel the most intense in the beginning. Here's what I want you to remember. You can train your heart to value connection over chemistry. You can learn to recognize when something is simply exciting versus when it's actually healthy. And when you do, everything changes. You stop chasing the high and start building something real. When you're focused only on chemistry, you're often drawn to what's familiar. And for a lot of people, what's familiar isn't always what's healthy. Maybe you're used to inconsistency. So when someone is hot and cold, it feels normal, even exciting. Maybe you're used to having to prove your worth. So when someone is emotionally distant, you see it as a challenge rather than a red flag. We all have emotional patterns, and unless we interrupt them, we end up calling dysfunction fate. But when you choose connection, when you value emotional safety, consistency, mutual respect, you start to filter differently. You stop asking, do they make my heart race? And start asking, do I feel calm around them? Can I be myself? Do I trust them when they're not in the room? Those are the questions that build something lasting. Because love that lasts isn't about adrenaline, it's about alignment. Let me tell you something. The right person for you isn't the one who causes the biggest emotional roller coaster. It's the one who brings you peace. It's the one who shows up when they say they will, who remembers the little things, who wants to understand your mind, not just admire your face. And sure, there might still be chemistry, but it's grounded, it's not just fireworks, it's a steady flame. If you're serious about finding a love that lasts a lifetime, you have to stop rewarding intensity over intimacy. You have to stop being seduced by the drama and start paying attention to the quiet, powerful moments where real connection is built, conversations that go beyond the surface, the way someone handles conflict, how they treat you when you're tired, anxious, or not at your best. Because let me be clear, the person who's meant to walk with you through life isn't just someone you have amazing dates with. It's someone who makes hard days easier, someone you can lean on, someone who leans back. That doesn't come from sparks. That comes from shared values, mutual support, and emotional vulnerability. It comes from the work both of you are willing to put in after the honeymoon phase fades. You don't fall into that kind of love, you build it. Slowly, deliberately, and yes, it may not always feel like fireworks, but what it lacks in drama, it makes up for in depth, in safety, in the kind of trust that makes everything else in your life stronger, not more chaotic. So if you've been chasing chemistry, I'm not telling you to ignore it entirely, just don't let it be the only thing. Pay attention to the quieter signals. Does this person make you feel at ease? Are you proud of the version of yourself that shows up when you're with them? Do you feel energized or drained after spending time together? Attraction gets you in the door, but connection is what keeps you there. And if you want love that lasts a lifetime, it's not the lightning bolt that matters, it's the foundation. It's the quiet certainty that this person sees you, hears you, and is truly there for you. That's when love stops being something that happens to you and starts being something you build. Let's talk about something that completely changes the quality of your relationships, not just romantic ones, but every single interaction in your life. Is this idea that attraction isn't built by playing games or pretending to be someone you're not. It's built by having boundaries, clear, healthy, confident boundaries. And the moment you start embracing this truth, everything changes. You start getting treated differently. You stop attracting people who take advantage of your kindness. And you begin to stand out, not because you're louder, more beautiful, or more charming, but because you have self-respect and people can feel it. There's this belief floating around that if you want someone to like you, you have to be agreeable, always available, always accommodating. That if you say no, set limits, or stand your ground, you'll scare them away. But the irony is, the opposite is true. Boundaries don't push away the right people, they repel the wrong ones. And that's a blessing, not a loss. Think about it. How many times have you been in a situation where you went along with something you weren't comfortable with just to keep the peace or seem easygoing? Maybe it was saying yes to plans you didn't want to attend. Maybe it was brushing off a comment that hurt you. Or maybe it was pretending you were okay with a casual situation when deep down you wanted something more. And each time you did that, a little part of you got dimmed. A little part of you started wondering, do I even matter here? But here's the truth, people can't respect you more than you respect yourself. If you don't set the standard for how you want to be treated, you end up accepting whatever someone is willing to give. That's how we fall into situations where we feel unappreciated, unseen, or stuck in one-sided dynamics. We think that being overly flexible makes us lovable, but it just makes us forgettable. When you show someone that you're willing to sacrifice your needs to keep them, they won't magically appreciate you more. In fact, they'll usually just keep taking. Not out of malice, but because they're being shown that there's no boundary, that they don't have to try harder, that they don't have to earn your effort, your time, your love. And what starts off as you being easy to be with ends up feeling like you're the only one doing the emotional heavy lifting. So what does it actually look like to have boundaries in a way that builds attraction instead of breaking connection? It looks like being honest about what you want, even when it's vulnerable, saying this is the kind of relationship I'm looking for without needing them to say the same. It looks like walking away when someone is inconsistent, not as punishment, but as a reflection of what you're no longer available for. It looks like making decisions that serve your peace, even if they disappoint someone else. And let me be clear, this isn't about being rigid, guarded, or difficult. This isn't about building walls. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. They're the way you decide who gets access to your time, your energy, and your heart. And when someone respects those doors, when they knock instead of barge in, when they meet you with patience instead of pressure, you begin to build something real. What most people don't realize is that attraction grows when there's a sense of earned closeness. When someone knows that being close to you means something, that it's not just handed over to anyone. That's when people value your presence. That's when they show up better. Not because you manipulated them, but because you led with clarity and self-worth. We think we need to make someone fall for us by constantly showing how giving, flexible, and low maintenance we are. But love that lasts isn't about convincing someone. It's about letting them experience you fully and giving them the choice to rise to your level or walk away. And when they walk away, that's information. That's freedom. Because someone who is scared off by your standards was never going to honor them anyway. If you're afraid that setting a boundary will drive someone off, ask yourself, what's the alternative? Living in quiet resentment? Constantly bending so they'll stay? Sacrificing your needs for crumbs of attention? That's not love. That's survival. And there's nothing sustainable about it. The people who are right for you will not only respect your boundaries, they'll be drawn to them. Because boundaries signal strength. They show you have a life, a purpose, an identity that isn't based on being liked, and that's magnetic. That's the kind of energy that makes someone think, this person knows who they are. I can't just coast. I have to show up. You don't need to be liked by everyone. You need to be loved deeply by someone who respects who you are. And that respect starts with you. It starts when you say, I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm not afraid to lose something that wasn't meant for me. I'd rather be alone with peace than together with confusion. Boundaries are not a strategy to manipulate someone into staying. They are a filter. They are the quiet way you teach the world how to love you. And if someone can't meet you there, let them go. Because you're not here to be easy to keep. You're here to be worth choosing. If we're being honest, most people don't fall apart in the beginning of a relationship. The start is easy. It's full of excitement, mystery, and all the possibilities. You're showing your best self, they're showing theirs, and everything feels new. That part doesn't take effort, it almost floats on its own. But if we're talking about love that lasts a lifetime, then we have to shift our focus. We have to stop romanticizing the highlights and start getting better at embracing the everyday. Because the truth is, lasting love doesn't grow in the fireworks, it grows in the boring moments. Let me explain what I mean by that. Love that sticks isn't just built on holidays, anniversaries, grand gestures, or epic surprises. It's not about the one amazing trip you took together or the incredible date night that made your heart race. Those are beautiful moments, and they do matter. But they aren't what keeps a relationship alive when life gets real. Love that lasts shows up when the dishes need to be done, when someone's having a rough week, when you're both tired, overwhelmed, or annoyed. It lives in those quiet, unglamorous, often overlooked moments that no one posts about. A lot of people chase the feeling of being in love, not the act of loving. And the feeling is amazing, it's intoxicating, but feelings fluctuate. They go up and down. They change with stress, with routine, with time. And if your entire connection is based on how good it feels when things are easy, then the moment real life kicks in, you're going to start wondering if the love is gone. You'll say things like, it doesn't feel the same anymore. Or maybe the spark just died. But love isn't supposed to feel like a constant high. Real love is deeper than a spark. It's a steady flame that keeps burning, even when it's not flashy. The strongest couples aren't the ones who always feel amazing about each other. They're the ones who keep choosing each other, even when it doesn't feel perfect. They keep showing up. They keep doing the little things. They don't panic when it gets hard. They don't run when the energy shifts. They understand that the mundane is not the enemy of romance. It's actually where intimacy is built. When you see someone for who they really are, not just who they are on date night, but who they are when they're sick, when they're anxious, when they're quiet or irritable, and you still love them, that's real intimacy. And when someone sees you in those states and still chooses you, still holds space for you, that's when you realize you're building something lasting. Not because it's always magical, but because it's always real. But so many people miss this because they expect love to constantly feel thrilling. They expect every day to have chemistry, deep conversation, laughter, passion. And the moment things settle down and routines form, they start questioning everything. They wonder if they've fallen out of love, when really they've just stepped into the next phase, one where love matures, quiets, deepens. And if you can't appreciate that phase, you'll spend your life chasing the high of beginnings, never actually getting to the part where the love becomes real. Think about the couples you know who've been together 10, 20, 30 years and are still strong. Ask them what keeps them together. It's not adrenaline. It's not non-stop romance. It's commitment. It's shared values. It's the way they've become teammates. It's the 1,000 small ways they care for each other daily. It's how they've weathered hard seasons and come out stronger, not because it was easy, but because they didn't give up when it got unexciting or uncomfortable. And yes, romance still matters, passion still matters, but those things don't sustain themselves. You don't stumble into a 30-year romance by accident. You build it through conscious effort, through showing up every day, even when it's not convenient. That means doing the boring things together, grocery shopping, folding laundry, dealing with bills, planning meals, coordinating schedules. These things don't sound romantic, but they are the relationship. They are where you learn to move in sync, where you learn to compromise, to support, to be consistent. We need to stop seeing routine as the death of love and start seeing it as the container that holds it. Because if your relationship can't survive the everyday, it can't survive at all. And the best part, when you do the boring things together with love, with kindness, with a sense of partnership, those things become deeply meaningful. Suddenly, making coffee in the morning or doing a Sunday grocery run becomes part of your love story. Not the glamorous part, but the real part. You don't fall out of love because life becomes routine. You fall out of love when you stop paying attention to each other inside the routine. So make space for each other, even in the mundane. Ask how their day really was. Do the small favors. Leave the kind note. Make the joke in traffic. Be interested in the details of their life, not just the big moments, because those details are where love lives day to day. And when you start appreciating the ordinary, you realize it's not boring at all. It's sacred. It's where love becomes reliable, stable, and unshakable. That's the kind of love that carries you through decades, not just seasons. Because real love isn't made in the highlights. It's made in the quiet, daily choosing of each other over and over again. One of the biggest misconceptions we have about love is this idea that we're supposed to find the perfect person. Like there's this magical human walking around out there, tailor-made just for someone who never triggers us, never makes mistakes, and just fits into our lives like a missing puzzle piece. And once we find them, everything's supposed to be easy. But if you've ever actually been in a real relationship, you know that's not how it works. The truth is, you don't find the perfect person. You find someone real and you grow with them. There's this dangerous fantasy that love should always feel effortless, that the right person will somehow just get us without us ever needing to explain ourselves. That if we're with the right one, there won't be any friction, no miscommunication, no bad days. But here's the thing, two people coming together with two different life experiences, two sets of habits, fears, and emotional triggers will never be completely effortless. And that's not a flaw in the relationship. That's just reality. What makes a love last isn't whether you found someone who's flawless. It's whether you found someone who's willing to grow with you. Someone who can meet you where you are, but also walk beside you towards something better And that growth, that process, it's not always smooth. Sometimes it's messy. Sometimes it means confronting uncomfortable truths, owning your own baggage, and learning how to navigate each other's emotional landscapes. But when you're both in it together, when both people are committed to evolving, not just as individuals, but as a couple, that's when something extraordinary can happen. A lot of relationships break down not because the love isn't there, but because one or both people stop growing, or they grow in different directions without communicating. They get stuck in old patterns, cling to outdated versions of themselves or their partner, and resist the changes that naturally come with time. But if you want a love that lasts a lifetime, you have to make peace with the fact that you and your partner are going to change. In fact, they should. You both should. The goal isn't to find someone who stays the same, it's to find someone who evolves with you, who keeps choosing you even as you both change. Think about it. You're not the same person you were 5 years ago. So why would you expect your relationship to stay frozen in time? Real love means learning to love the new versions of each other that show up over the years. It means having the courage to grow together through careers, setbacks, family issues, personal breakthroughs, and moments where everything you thought you knew about life gets flipped upside down. And let's be honest, sometimes growth is uncomfortable. Sometimes your partner will challenge you, not in a way that belittles you or makes you feel small, but in a way that pushes you to rise. They'll hold up a mirror and help you see where you can do better, where you can communicate more clearly, listen more deeply, or love more intentionally. And if you're with someone who genuinely wants to grow with you, they'll be open to receiving the same from you. That's the beauty of a relationship built on growth. It becomes a space where both people are constantly becoming better versions of themselves, not out of pressure, but out of love. But here's where a lot of people get stuck. They meet someone and they fall in love with the potential of who that person could be, not who they actually are. They think, once they change this, or stop doing that, or get more mature, things will finally be great. And that's a dangerous game. Because while yes, growth is part of every relationship, it has to come from within. You can't force someone to grow just to meet your expectations. You can't date someone's potential and expect it to sustain you. You have to love the person in front of you while also being honest about whether you're truly compatible for the long run. Are they willing to have the tough conversations? Are they open to self-reflection? Can they take responsibility for their actions? Do they want to build something real with you, or are they just going along for the ride until it stops being convenient? And equally, are you doing that work? Are you bringing your best self to the relationship, or just expecting your partner to do all the emotional heavy lifting? It's easy to point fingers, to say, if only they changed this, we'd be fine. But lasting love starts with each person taking responsibility for their role in the dynamic. You can't grow together if you're not first willing to grow individually. The couples who make it through the years are the ones who stay curious about each other, who don't stop asking questions, who don't assume they know everything there is to know about their partner. They keep showing up with interest, with empathy, with the mindset that says, you and I are a work in progress, and I'm here for all of it. And when conflict comes, and it will, they don't use it as an excuse to run. They use it as a chance to understand each other better. They're not afraid to say, this isn't working right now, but let's figure it out. That's what it looks like to grow with someone instead of expecting perfection from them. So stop searching for someone who ticks every box from day one. Stop waiting for perfect. Look for someone who's real, self-aware, willing to grow, and ready to do the work with you. Because the person you build a life with won't be perfect, they'll be human. And the love you create with them won't always be smooth, but it will be real. Because the love that lasts a lifetime isn't found. It's built together. We grow up believing that love is a feeling, that one day it just hits you, that overwhelming sense of connection, passion, excitement, and that once you have that feeling, you're set. As if that emotion will carry you through every hard conversation, every disagreement, every tired day, and every season of change. But if you've been in a relationship that lasted longer than a few months, you already know the truth. Feelings come and go. They shift, they fade, they return, they evolve. And if your love is only anchored in how you feel, then it's going to drift the moment those feelings stop being convenient. Love that lasts a lifetime isn't a feeling, it's a decision. It's not the decision you make once standing at an altar or during some emotional declaration. It's a decision you make again and again every single day, especially on the days when it would be easier not to. Especially on the days when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable, when the energy isn't electric, and when the version of your partner you're facing isn't the one you fell for in the beginning. Because loving someone over time means loving many versions of them. It means choosing to stay connected through seasons where they're struggling, changing, growing, or even regressing. When love is just a feeling, it becomes transactional. We only give when we're getting. We only show up when we feel appreciated. We only listen when we feel heard. But when love becomes a conscious decision, everything shifts. It becomes about showing up for the relationship, not just when it feels rewarding, but when it requires patience. When it asks something of you, when it challenges your ego and calls you to stretch. That's the kind of love that builds trust. That's the kind of love that becomes unshakable. Now, I'm not talking about staying in relationships that are toxic or one-sided. Choosing love every day doesn't mean tolerating disrespect or settling for less than you deserve. It means that within a healthy, mutual, safe relationship, you don't let temporary emotions make permanent decisions. You don't walk away from someone good just because the spark has dulled or the dynamic has shifted. You stay engaged. You communicate. You ask better questions. You go back to the foundation. And here's something we don't talk about enough. Love isn't always loud. It's not always passionate speeches or romantic getaways. Often, it's subtle. It's the morning coffee made without being asked. It's the apology that comes without defensiveness. It's the text that says, "I was thinking about you." It's choosing to listen even when you've had a long day. It's staying in the room during a hard conversation. Love lives in these quiet moments. It's not always glamorous, but it's incredibly meaningful. The people who build love that lasts aren't the ones who never fight. They're the ones who learn how to fight fair, who disagree with respect, who don't try to win, but try to understand. And that only happens when love becomes a decision, not a reaction. Because if you only love someone when they're easy to love, then what happens when they're not? What happens when they're stressed, anxious, distant, or distracted? That's when the decision matters most. That's when the relationship is tested, not in the moments of joy, but in the moments of discomfort. You're going to go through seasons where the relationship feels off. That's normal. Sometimes life gets in the way, work, stress, family issues, personal struggles. And when that happens, you won't always feel deeply in love. You might feel distant, frustrated, disconnected. But that doesn't mean the love is gone. It means it's time to lean in, to reconnect, to re-engage. That's what choosing love looks like. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking, if I'm not feeling it, it must be wrong. But love that lasts isn't built on constant emotional highs. It's built on rhythm, on ritual, on habits. The couples that last are the ones who've created ways to stay connected, even when they don't feel naturally drawn toward each other. They ask the hard questions. They keep dating each other. They keep investing, even when it's not convenient, even when it feels like work, because sometimes it is. But here's the beauty in that work. When you consistently choose love, even when it's tough, that commitment deepens the bond. You build something with roots. Not a relationship that sways with every emotional breeze, but one that stays grounded. And that security, that steadiness, that deep knowing, it's what makes the best parts of love possible. The safety to be vulnerable, the freedom to grow, the trust to be truly seen. You don't get that kind of love by accident. You don't stumble into it. You build it brick by brick, choice by choice, through the conversations you don't want to have, through the grace you give when someone doesn't deserve it but needs it. through the moments where you remember that love isn't just about how someone makes you feel, but how you decide to treat them when things aren't perfect. It's easy to love when it's easy, but the real magic shows up when it's hard and you still show up. When the choice to love becomes an act of courage, not comfort, because anyone can love on the good days. But love that lasts a lifetime, that's made on the hard days and chosen again the next day and the next. Because in the end, a lasting relationship isn't built on a feeling that found you. It's built on the choice you make to build something worth keeping every single day. If this video gave you something to think about or helped you see love in a new way, make sure to hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and reach more amazing people like you. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss out on future videos that are all about helping you build stronger, healthier, and more meaningful relationships. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what resonated with you most, or drop a topic you'd like me to cover next. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.